Hello and welcome to my Panther guide on how to fight every striker currently in the game as Panther, or you can call this, I guess, an advanced Panther guide, whatever you prefer. Just know that it may be missing a couple mechs that we may be getting in the future whenever we get those patches. But this guide also assumes that you understand some basics, such as how to melee dash, downward slash, all the basic stuff that you should probably know as a melee in general, as well as how to pilot Panther. But I'll be going over each and every mech and how to 1v1 them, as well as what to anticipate when fighting against them. Now, I know I said I'm not going to cover the basics, but one thing I do want to highlight is the most important detail for Panther, and for Panther players to know, is treat your advanced complex shield like your actual HP bar. It's very important and integral to playing Panther right. And on that note, always try to have at least one booster kit available, because that is going to be your escape. In case you ever run into a dire situation or just need to get out of it, and you don't have the energy or you need the extra shield, you want that option available at all times. You never want to be caught with no energy and no booster kit at the same time, as well as only relying on strictly what you have available in sight, because that's what a lot of people are going to take advantage of. But mainly because this prevents stagger. And that's going to play a big role in Panther, just all around, no matter who you're facing, no matter what match, what game, what type of mission it is. So, starting off, we've got Falcon, which we very easily counter. It's pretty much guaranteed to always die so long as you land the downward slash and to a lance. But I do want to mention that this happens to a Falcon player that is very not conscious of what they're being hit by, usually. And Panther is an ambush mech, but a good Falcon player can actually avoid this combination. I also just recommend in general not meleeing it for long, because by the time you melee even the third hit, they're gonna find a way to dodge out of that. You're just letting them know, hey, I'm hitting you, as opposed to just stunning them and then immediately locking them into the lance combo. But in this case, go ahead and let him get some flight. Then we're not aware. Oh, there he is. Oh no! And then I'm just gonna go above. Keep my shield out till I find an opening. Try to divert some of that damage that he's giving me to my fluid shield, my complex shield, my advance. But you see, he can slip right out of it. So a competent Falcon player, not just a CPU in this case, but a player that's actually paying attention, they can avoid that combo so long as they have enough energy and hit dash just before the lance actually hits and connects. So just between the downward slash and that lance, they do have a shot to escape. There's also the, cases of latency taking place in lots of situations where it just didn't line up, or maybe an obstacle appeared, or you landed into one. There's a lot of definitely variables when it comes to the map details, but generally speaking, Panther can easily take a Falcon no problem, even the competent ones. Now, with Panther, it's pretty interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, your advanced complex shield is very important and integral to this kind of 1v1. In most situations, you'll typically try to do the downward slash to stagger them and then lend the lance right after. However, so long as the complex shields are on, the advanced ones, you're not going to stagger, regardless of you having your shield out or not. So that this hit right here will not stun you whatsoever, and you can walk right out of it. Now, if they connect the lance right after that, you are locked, and that is going to damage your advanced complex shield very quickly. But this is where the flexibility of your booster kit comes in really handy. So let me kind of show you just a fight with a Panther here. It's not going to be quite the same with players, because in most cases they usually know to downward attack and challenge you in energy usage, but it always comes down to who can drain the others first, who can out-parry the other first. You want to just find the openings to challenge their resources, and in most cases it ends up being their energy and their shield, because that's exactly what you rely on. It's just a mishmash of who can mess up first. which kind of makes it a really fun encounter, honestly, when you find a really good Panther player. But you see how that downward slash, it connected, and it didn't stagger me, and not just because my regular shield's out, but because I have these out. See what it looks like with... So it connects without it, but my regular shield blocked the full front of that attack, so... But I'm now without a shield. So that puts me in a really bad spot. You never want to be without your shield against any melee, because then you just lose your ability to parry whatsoever. And it does deal a little bit of damage to your shield, not enough to really be worried about, but if it is low, you are going to want to conserve at least a little bit so that you can keep doing this. And patience is absolutely key to this too, because now, again, no shield. The most I can do is clash like that, and that takes so long to do, and then just gonna do, yeah, there's the counter. You just have to wait for that opening, play defensively. The more patient Panther wins that fight, every time. And even if you don't kill the enemy Panther, deterring them off point, removing their resources, makes them unusable, and you want that. Next up, we have another really fun mashup. ALYSNES. Now, in most cases, this is pretty easy to handle, but a good ALYSNES does put a bit of pressure onto Panther, since they do have some range out on us. They have projectiles, whereas we're purely melee. Now, the fun part of this comes down to challenging their energy, since they do have only the one source of energy, whereas we can constantly stay hovering in midair, waiting for that chance to downward attack, boost your kit, keep going, there it is, and just keep going like that. But what you need to look out for is how you challenge each form of ALYSNES, because in its bulkier form, it's going to use its range and try to deplete your resources quite a bit. It's usually not going to try to challenge you to a melee, and it will keep trying to parry you, because it can afford to keep parrying and shielding and just dealing range damage to you. In its second form, when it's stripped of its armor, it does have a temporary evasion bonus where your tracking doesn't exactly work all that well. It follows the clones that it leaves behind, the after images. So in that situation, it is without a shield, but you do have to wait out just for a moment to play defensively so that you can land a good downward slash into a lance. However, I always suggest getting into the habit of the moment an ALYSNES transforms, hold up your shield and start backing away, because the moment they transform, it does do a stun around everything around them, and it can catch you out of your block. But also, an ALYSNES transforming usually gets aggressive in that small window where they have the after images, so it's good to have the shield up and ready to counter, as opposed to not at all and then just being subjected to melees and taking damage for no reason. And on that note, I know I'm late to mention this, and again, it feels like basic information for Panther, but if you're ever wondering about the parry window, it's not a one-time use. It is strictly those like 2 to 3 seconds there, and you'll notice it on opponents too if you watch them carefully. Their shield will glow bright and big, and then it just diminishes when the window's over. And that window lasts that whole time. It doesn't go away just because you parried one thing. It lasts that whole duration. So you can technically parry multiple melee units trying to hit you at once, so long as you just time it right. So let's give this an example with an active ALYSNES. He's more... the AI is a little more melee aggressive, so this is kind of very easy to do here, but you'll get the idea. I was too impatient there. Should have charged it first. If you're never sure, don't go for it. When you know you have that lance and energy, go for it. I back up. He didn't engage, that's good, but he is trying to whittle me down. Still have the after images. Downward. Too early. Oh, but he's feeling feisty, so I'm just gonna do that, and now back up. Now, same case here. When they transform this time, they do have this projectile shield for a moment. Kind of not really an invulnerability state, but just increased defense overall, it seems like. I haven't fully tested that just yet, but I generally just wait it out. See, now he's just whittling me away from a distance here, and I'm keeping my distance really to kind of show this off, but If he does melee, it should be this. Yeah, it should be that downward strike. But if I lose my shield, I lose my edge in that melee fight. So we're just gonna go ahead down the strike, lance. Gonna last some of my complex advanced shield here. There's some of that damage. Do it again. Miss. Check your distance. And sometimes the downward strike is a little wonky, but I think it's just because I executed a little too early. I am low on energy here, so I'm going to put this a little bit slower. There we go. Honestly, that's just me knowing the AI more than a player. Oh, this one engaged immediately after transforming, so just like that, punishable. But hopefully that kind of gives the rough idea of how ALYSNES acts in combat. Most players will be more wary than that, but the general premise makes sense that they're going to try to, you know, get you to spend your resources as often as you can before they engage you. And if they get your shield down, you are a vulnerable target, so it can range. A bad ALYSNES is a pretty easy target. A good ALYSNES is a pretty fun matchup. And for my least favorite encounter, this is TRICERA, which is a direct counter to Panther, if I'm completely honest. And I think everybody knows why already, but I'll just go ahead and explain. The shield's parry the moment it transforms. It has a self-heal whenever it's missing HP. Your melee attacks don't directly cut to its HP, it cuts into its shield initially. And on top of that, the howitzer can stagger you, so if you're caught without your advanced complex armor, that can be punishing as well. It's just really easy to get parried by this thing, and honestly, I never recommend fighting it. I don't care what that achievement says about killing 5 of them in the payload missions. I think that's impossible personally, and I've actually submitted several tickets about that because this isn't Panther's job. It's not your job to target the tankiest, bulkiest unit in the game that counters melee units. So, that said, it's good to tackle one with your team, especially if it's like an Inferno or SERENITH, something that can make it transform and move, because you're not going to land very many melee hits on even a half-decent TRICERA, because they will be keeping that turret mode up pretty often, or they'll be constantly changing enough to parry. So let me just kind of show this. And honestly, the AI is very nice. It actually stays in mech form more often than turret mode, but you'll see. And again, diverting some of the damage across the fluid armor, your shields, your complex shield, very helpful. If you try to combo, you'll see right there, you almost did it, where I landed the downward strike, but the transformation right after, if I had landed my lance, he would have just parried me. Now, one useful thing to know is in mech form, they can aim like this. Ah, see, just like that. In turret form, they can't aim up. So, at least on... oh lord, I hate TRICERA so much. At least for a player, one of the best things you can do is stay above it. It also received a turning nerf recently, so keeping it kind of busy and messing around with it until it's out in mech form can help. Sometimes you can catch it just like that. It's very lucky when you do. Just kind of play with their patience a bit. You can strike into the shield, but you see how little damage that's going to do to the shield and how much you're trading off for. It just generally doesn't seem to be worth it. You also may notice that right now the shield's small, like I mentioned, that parry window. So, watch what happens when he transforms again. Moves, and go back up, small again. And that's how I know when the window's over. Sometimes you can land it, but generally speaking, it's just never worth it. It is never worth it, even with players. Even if most of them know not to transform, or if they do, it's not a good time. Don't recommend going alone with that. Now for a fun one that we all like finding, NARUKAMI. Now, NARUKAMI, we easily counter it. It just needs a bit of manual aiming because they're typically in cloak. However, just one lance, I mean, it's practically the same as dealing with Falcon, you just need a little bit extra on that hit. In fact, let me go ahead and confirm that. I'm pretty sure it's not the exact same as Falcon, but it's pretty close. You land the downward strike. Oh, hold on. Downward strike. Lance. Yeah, it gets them pretty close. But that said, it's just a matter of finding the Narukami to begin with. So let's pretend in this case that the Narukami is out and about. We're just going to let him kind of mess around. Say we're doing an objective, we're focused on something else. We're not noticing that there's a sniper lining up a shot. We keep up our shield regardless, just because it's full, why not? I'm not missing any energy. Ah! Saw a shot, I know the general direction. You line of sight it. Try to have your shield up in that general direction too, kind of helps. And wait for visible signals like right there. Now that could be a clone, and it is because I see the real beam to the left of it. You can tell because the true Narukami fires a more pinkish reddish beam, whereas the clones fire a kind of yellowish beam. So right there. And they might have just used the grapple, might be up here. Traditionally they will try to go for a wall or a ceiling if possible, but this is just the AI, so you kind of have to account for how clever a player is with Narukami and how they hide. Because they can go invisible from the clones being around, they can go invisible from the bubble they put down, which now can be put on allies and, you know, on nodes in this case, where, say you're playing on the key node missions, they can just put the shield right over that node and let your team capture it. Or let their team capture it while they're invisible and cloaked. Now, LUMINAE. LUMINAE is a mixed bag. You find either a really bad one and it's easy to keep track of, or you find a really good one and it can be an absolute menace to you. Generally speaking, I actually recommend trying to harass a LUMINAE more than just lance and combo, because what ends up happening is you'll get it to that much health and it starts flying away, it turns on its infinite energy wings and just starts boosting. You can't get a good lock. A lot of time you end up missing. It's just self-healing itself, and then it's returning the fire and directly attacking your HP. So it ends up becoming just a complete menace all around. I'm going to show you with the AI here. So, LUMINAE on. And let's just pretend. Let's give it a head start here. LUMINAE is a big threat to Panther because they ignore all of your shields and just say, here you go, take damage. Just like that, or I got 2 drones on me, look at my health. Downward strike doesn't keep them down for long. And that's why I say maybe use the melee a little bit more, because at least that's time they'll be spending trying to heal, as opposed to you missing your lance like this and then returning the fire. So melee is definitely the way to go in my opinion. Unless you can guarantee a lance charge, I wouldn't do it. But you can kind of see how this is going. One thing that's also worth mentioning is that the heal drones they use automatically seek out their targets, whereas the DPS drones they use, they need to hit their target, essentially. So you can actually dodge them. It's just they're very quick, just like LUMINAE. And it can end up costing a lot of energy doing this. That's why in some cases it's not always advisable to chase after the healer the entire game, because now you're wasting all of your resources just trying to catch a LUMINAE that's sneaking away like that so easily. So harassing the resources and energy out of them is usually the way to go, but as you can see, it can be costly. So I won't say LUMINAE is a direct counter to Panther, but they absolutely can be in the right hands. So definitely approach them with a group, or try to catch them in a position where they're off guard, and again, ambush. It's Panther's specialty. Inferno is another matchup I get excited to see, because It can go one of two ways. If they're not very good at Inferno, they will use up their evasion and their after images, and it'll go on a lengthy cooldown where you can just kind of annihilate the Inferno. If they're good, you've actually got a little bit of a problem because he can deal a lot of energy damage, which can shred through your shields, but he's also very evasive, which can dodge a lot of your lances, so ultimately it falls down to pressuring the Inferno to use that evasion and landing a lance when you know they don't have it available. So I'll kind of show you what I mean with this AI here. Finding the opportunities to get behind as well, very important. Let's see, if I just do a downward slash into lance, you're just gonna dodge it with the evasion there. However, if I just melee, he still doesn't use it, apparently. Alright, he's waiting a very long time to use it, but he did eventually. But generally a player will activate it in short bursts where it has that 3-second cooldown. You just kind of want to pressure them with enough melee, conserve your energy enough, and land a lance when you see the opportunity arise, as opposed to constant melee where you're just blowing energy on after images, or just trying for lance charges where they're going to see that coming and just evade it altogether. Welkin's another really fun matchup, because a bad Welkin is very easy for us to kill, and even a good Welkin we can probably take, but I'll show some examples of just how much of a threat Welkin can be. It's a pretty good one-on-one. For the most part, the main thing to keep in mind is that your downward slash, this, will stagger the Welkin. It will, however, be parried if you're hitting the axe while they're spinning. That is just not something we can handle at all. You never want to approach a Welkin on the same ground. You always want to go from above, and specifically hitting the Welkin from up high, because if you hit it from out, say, like, over here, it might hit the axe instead, and now you get parried, he boxes you, flashes you, and now you're just being axed to death. So, let's kind of show how that looks as well. Again, okay. Goes for a flash immediately, I'm boxed. I choose to just keep dodging, turn on my armor so he can't just catch me. Costs a bit of energy to escape that if he does box you, so try not to. I'll let him spend some energy. I know he can't take it. Now he can put the shield up, but it does push him anyway. So just kind of let that burn itself out. Again, let him use his resources. And even at this point, if you're boxed in, you've given them enough damage that you can actually pressure them a bit more. But again, be cautious of your energy here. And if they're really not smart, you can parry one because they decided to not just spin, but they wanted to open with the melee as well. But you can see, if they do land that blind, it can be a problem. However, if you catch them in the box doing this, trying to initiate that spin, there's a chance you can actually parry it and just counter outright. So something that also helps a little bit is me not messing up during this, but ah, goodness, that's it for me, I think. There it is. Something that really helps, too, is to conserve your energy, fight it in a group if you can, while it's already spinning, catch it off guard. You're a Panther after all, you ambush it. But if it does get that flash off, try to preemptively have your shield out to parry, as it can be fatal otherwise. But, yeah, Welkins are pretty fun to fight. Just play more to your advantages than theirs. If they do box you, try to get that diagonal into a lance and corner them. Make them waste that time. Make them waste their cooldowns. If they manage to get a box out, but they don't have you in it, or they get the blind on you, but they don't have you in the box, or they're using their shield, etc., just keep that in mind, because those are going to be lengthy cooldowns for them to have to deal with, and they have to fight you with super armor, which they're not going to catch you, so long as you keep that advanced complex shield up. Won't be staggered to death anyway. Now I move to Aquila, and I'm just going to let him get started because we all know that an Aquila is always up in the air, ready to go. The drone, you can actually activate your advanced complex armor during, so if you ever needed some extra, you know, armor, your fluid armor is already using so much, bam. Just activate that, let it eat a couple shots. What we see is right here, try to get above him. He does manage to dodge in between the downward strike. Oh, and he gets me with that too. But line of sight is your friend here. And excess of energy is a great thing to have against an Aquila, because it can go one of two ways. You can harass them and try to get them to spend the energy that maybe they don't have, or try to ground them, which can do the same thing here, but by the time that you ground them, hopefully they don't have enough energy to dash out of that lance right there. But a good Aquila is going to keep as much distance from you as possible. And generally you just want to keep harassing it with melee until it's forced to be grounded, or you find that perfect moment to land a lance strike when they're not anticipating it. But the drones can be dodged, just not up close like that. If they're far away, they do try a couple times when going out. Oh my god, how did I miss that? Okay. But, the drones, when they get sent out, they do try about 3 to 4 times. If it does land, it does go on the longer cooldown for them. If it doesn't land at all, it halves the cooldown. So, something I always suggest against an Aquila is if you see it from a distance, they've already started a drone, you see that yellow trail and the little drone trying to seek you out, try to get a line of sight between the Aquila and let the drone land so that it puts that drone on cooldown longer. And then think about how you're going to approach the Aquila from that point. Use a lot of line of sight, and if you need the extra energy, try to hang around Korite, because you're going to need it. You ideally don't want to chase one from here to, say, all the way out there, because let's look at it this way. Our lance charged. Let's say he's up on that pillar. And I've reached him. I'm doing all this noise here. There's a booster kit. Oh, but he moved over this way. And there's all that energy. So, generally speaking, try to get as close as you can while on the ground before committing to the engagement, or otherwise it's just going to get away very easily. And work on pestering the energy out of it, because an Aquila without energy is a free target, not just for you, but the entire team. Another favorite, and especially after this patch, they actually got a buff where the decoys will stun you now if you lance or hit them in any way. So they're actually a little bit more challenging now, but for the most part, all you need to do is make sure that your targeting is locked on the Hurricane, not the decoys. Because generally speaking, if they do this especially, guaranteed the combo. But if you let them be, or if you do something very obvious like charge immediately, they will just try to put their shield up and parry. This wasn't even a good example, honestly. Let me find another one real quick. Because a bad Hurricane is easy. A good Hurricane can be a problem for you. But Panther's really good at moving things out of position, so a good Hurricane's going to hover around their shield, their decoys. They're going to set up base pretty often. This one doesn't seem to be very much, they just kind of setting up drones. And of course when it's doing this, try to get behind it. Easy pickings right there. But a good Hurricane will stick in that bubble, in that decoy. And if they do catch you in it, well, that could be curtains right then and there. Because the moment you're stunned, they're going to land that charged blast, and it does deal quite a bit of damage, as well as the beam laser, which you might think they'd only use in AoE situations, but it actually gains a lot of power over time that's used. So approaching with some care is advised, because they can shield and parry you during that, but it's not a constant shield, it's just a parry, and it's gone. It also launches that decoy, so just be careful not to lance both the decoy and the Hurricane now, since the decoy will stun you out of it, and the Hurricane will just get away. So I'd say, if anything, make sure your reticule is as close to the Hurricane as possible, getting a good amount of distance in the air, and just kind of waiting for that right moment to downward slash. Now, SKYRAIDER is a little bit trickier than Falcon. It's certainly tankier, has energy damage, so I want to say it's somewhat more of a counter to you than the other flyer we currently have. Catching them can also be kind of a nightmare and a waste of time, depending. But let me just kind of show you the gist of what happens. I'll let them get in the air because we know that's just going to be what happens. They have a lot more burst with the missiles, the micro missiles, and their beam. Just all their missiles in general seem to be much more damaging. And even if you do land the downward strike into a lance, they have a lot of HP to survive it. They're also very evasive. When I see players using them, they're very good at just keeping not on lock. Jammer helps with that too. So ideally, the best way to take one on is to catch it when it's actually low on resources. In some cases, it might even be advisable to manually aim a lance just to catch them through that, because the more pressure you can get on a SKYRAIDER, the less likely they are to engage you. And this one's having a field day. And I'm not gonna lie, I got lucky with that tracking there, because I was for sure that lance miss. But take what you can get. If you have to manually aim your lance, go for it, because you will be seeing a lot of them doing the flips and all the maneuvers in the air, trying to avoid fire altogether, and you could be the difference in them receiving that damage just by locking them down with a good placed, well-placed lance. Stego is another really fun one we actually counter very easily, and you've probably done it already yourself and noticed, but Stego is just like TRICERA except front-loaded and more range-oriented. So closing the distance and just keeping behind it will, for the most part, keep you safe. And you can even kind of manually aim while it's in the haze, trying to, hide from your targeting, and just push it away, with your lance. That can even help your team kind of decide, oh, it's over here, and you've just now pinpointed where exactly that Stego is. Now, I will note, the AI plays a lot smarter than I feel like some players do, because it actually stays out in its mech form and continues the fire, whereas most players seem to like to hunker down and let the shield try to mitigate damage, but then most of that damage ends up going missing. So let me just kind of show this fight here. See, I just pushed him even though he's in that haze. I can do it again. I just want to confirm that I get a side, so he doesn't just shield me and bombard me doing that. Once I do that, we're good. But as you can see, he has to stay moving, or otherwise this happens. And some Stegos don't even bother to transform. They just stay turreted, thinking that's going to help them take the damage easier. And while it kind of does, I'm still going to deal the damage directly to their health. So it's not always the most advisable situation. And just like that. And again, during that haze, you can just, ping them. You've already got them lanced into a corner. Your allies can manually aim too, or they might even get a target because they're not in the haze for a second. So it's always good to keep a Stego kind of on lockdown, because even if you don't manage to kill it, you never want a Stego stationary, doing its thing, launching missiles constantly at your team. It's a lot of burst damage at a long range, and it's safe to do that if it goes unpressured, so keep Stegos in check. Now, had this been a week ago, I would have said that we directly counter SERENITH to a degree. Since the patch, I don't know how I feel about that anymore, because during their evasion window, when they activate their Aux 2, they can now remove stagger and debuffs in general. The tether skill that messes up your targeting also staggers you as well, I believe, even if you have the advanced complex shields. And they have a lot of energy damage, so they can keep up the pressure very well. A good SERENITH can be a problem for you. A okayish SERENITH you can likely take down, again, through the traditional downward strike, lance. Bit more than that, obviously, and they will try to evade it. It really depends on basically pressuring them to use their cooldowns for as long as possible so that you can catch them in that frame of time when they don't have anything to save themselves. So a smart Serenith will actually tap their evade and just keep moving, using their energy. They just don't want to be locked on, period. A bad Serenith will use that cooldown to its full length, and then you can just rest easy and know, okay, all I have to do is just line of sight, survive, and the moment that's done, I can just go ahead and finish this off. But let me kind of show how this fight goes. They definitely got a lot better with the recent buff, and they can absolutely be a force to be reckoned with. I also play a bit of Serenith myself, so let's see how this one goes. Let's go. Pressure your energy out with those satellite beams. There's that targeting, which really messes you up. It can be a bit floaty too. See his evasion there again, but I know it's going to be on a long cooldown. Bam, easy. For the most part, it's just a matter of finding the right window of timing, pressuring the Serenith to run out of resources, run out of energy, not have its evade, etc. But a good Serenith will usually stick by a teammate anyway to help with the lock-on tracking and to kind of just tag team and focus you down a bit. Now, PINAKA can go a couple ways. It can absolutely be a threat to you if one-on-one and they're good at what they do. Dropping the columns on you will deal direct damage to your health. The barrier has a lot of players making it not want to target a PINAKA just because they think that's going to be so durable and hard to take it down that way, and it self-heals while it's doing that. But on the contrary, you actually want to add as much pressure to a PINAKA as you can, especially if it's shielding itself, because then it's not healing its allies. And if you do see the shield on someone else, that's when you should be punishing the PINAKA as well. But if you have the opportunity, you want to harass and try to drain as much energy and shield out of the PINAKA as you possibly can. If you just leave it unchecked, it's going to be a menace, and if you fight it one-on-one, a good PINAKA can actually drain your resources, and the AI here kind of proves that really well, as you're about to see in a second here. For the most part, though, helping an ally kill a PINAKA is always advised. Opening with a lance is a good idea too, to get that initial burst damage in to promote it to using the shield first and foremost, but you want to harass it. So let me kind of show what that looks like here. I'm gonna open the lance just to deal enough damage to promote it to use that shield. Now while it's doing this, I don't suggest using a lance during this because it can whiff. But you can see the damage that laser's doing though. What you want is to see that red right there and keep on going. Because all you need is that PINAKA to not heal. Not heal itself, not heal others, just keep it under pressure. Now, I don't recommend using the lance when it has the shield on, because when you do, it does stay, or it does seem to kind of whiff by like this. Well, coupled with a good dodging PINAKA, but yeah. A good PINAKA can actually be a force to be reckoned with, but a lot of the time, it just boils down to paying attention to where they're located, getting them trapped into a corner, putting them in positions that aren't favorable to them. In this case, it's very favorable to the PINAKA because it's very open space. They can just kind of have at it, create the pillars at their disposal wherever they want for line of sight too. Landing the combo can also be hard because they can put that shield on themselves, but some PINAKA don't seem to have as good a reaction time. This AI, however, proves quite the opposite. So even if you land that downward slash, sometimes it doesn't go through, other times it seems to. But as you can see, the closer I'm staying, the more damage he's just dealing to my fluid armor, to my advanced complex shield. It can be a lot of damage and you may not even realize it, so don't underestimate a PINAKA. But if you do see one busy, try to add a helping hand to killing it, because it's not a hard fight, or it's pretty difficult to take one down by yourself. Now, Stellaris is another fun one I seem to find, and this is always a mixed bag between a good and a bad Stellaris. For the most part, they usually stay cloaked around the field, waiting for, similar to how a Panther should be playing, they wait for their chance to ambush, and they usually open with that claw, the tether that immediately lets them close the gap to their target, saving them a bit of energy, and allows them to kind of just combo lock them. But of course, with Panther, you do have the option of using your advanced complex shields that kind of helps prevent that. The problem comes down to, if they open with the tether, a lot of that shield goes down very quick, forcing you to use a booster kit right off the bat. Other than that, the way to combat a Stellaris is just by pretending you're not interested and letting them think they have the opening. And I'll kind of show that in a second here, but again, this is going to be the AI, so it's not going to be the best example. But they can only parry, and you, of course, can just, you know, the standard downward lance. And they have a low bit of HP, so it'll be really good, because even at that point, you've at least deterred them from attacking you further. But they can deal some damage through your armor, through one of their skills at a range. They can parry while cloaked as well, and try to bait you too. So it can come down to a lot of mind play when it comes to players, but let me just kind of show how I treat them. They attack outright, counter. Now say he cloaks, say I'm like away, I'm not looking. Oh, there's that tether just out of nowhere, and then hey, boom. Really bad example because this one's not even using its cloak, but generally speaking, if you suspect there's one that just cloaked and it wants to strike again, it has full HP, it got the upper hand, just open with a shield every so often, and you'll actually catch one off guard very easily. This. That was easily telegraphed though, admittedly. There's other cases where it's not so easily telegraphed. But if they cloak and you detect the movement, you can kind of get a feel of the situation. I think he'll only do it if I line of sight. Yeah, I think that's the case. So let's pretend I'm... I don't know where he could be. I know he's in that direction, so I'll just... Yeah. So, Stellaris can be really fun in one-on-ones, but it really comes down to a bit of mind play. Making them think you're unaware, making them think you're not interested, and then pouncing right back the second you see an opening, or punishing them for spamming the parry with a downward strike, of course. You typically don't want to just continuously melee them, unless you absolutely know that they're out of energy or they're boxed in by a Welkin or something. Anywho, that's for the most part my guide on each striker, Panther versus each striker we currently have. To kind of provide some general summary tips that help overall is, again, treat your advanced complex shield like your initial HP, because without it, you're very easy to stagger by anything, not just melee attacks, but even ranged attacks like the howitzer from TRICERA or missiles from STEGO and etc. Keeping that in check and flexibly using your booster kits in a valuable way, in an efficient way where you're getting the energy out of it and also boosting your shield up back up a bit is always advisable. Hanging around Corite so that you have that extra bonus. Preloading your lance, all the basic stuff. Again, I know some of this might seem basic, but this is kind of a rough summary. You always want the advantage to be in your favor, to have the most shield and energy you have as possible and as close to your target as you can get before having to use it. That way you can just keep the pressure on them non-stop, and even if you don't kill them, again, keep in mind, Panther is designed to pressure and push out of position. So even if it's just an Inferno that's just wailing on, your team, you can move it out of position. Even if you don't outright kill it, landing that lance from the side when it's least expecting it can actually save your whole team a lot of fluid armor. So just kind of look out for targets that look vulnerable, that aren't paying attention, and give them a good old pounce and ambush, because that's entirely what Panther's playstyle is all about. But on that note, Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I might post more Mecha BREAK videos and such in the future. Maybe I'll do an update if we get more mechs and such. But until then, it's only a matter of time. See ya.